All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Table Mesa Recreation Area Environmental Assessment Public Scoping Meeting for January 18th, 2023. My name is Chris Wonderly. I'm the Public Affairs Specialist for the Phoenix District, and I'll be facilitating tonight's meeting. We will allow a few more minutes for attendees to join the meeting, and then we'll begin. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. If you are having any technical issues, please use the chat function at the bottom of your screen to request assistance. For those of you who are on the phone, please dial *9 to indicate that you need tech support. To access the live transcript of the meeting at the bottom of your screen, click Live Transcript, then Show Subtitle. Please note that this transcript is not an official verbatim transcript of the meeting and may contain errors. We'll give a couple more minutes for any latecomers, and we'll get started. I'd like to start by giving an overview of tonight's agenda. We will start by reviewing virtual meeting logistics and then introduce the BLM staffers who are on the panel. Then we will share a short presentation to give you some background on the project, the National Environmental Policy Act process, the public comment period, and then we will have time for questions at the end. For the meeting, microphones and cameras will remain off. We will take questions using the chat feature. You're welcome to submit questions throughout the presentation, but we won't answer those questions until the live Q&A session after the presentation. If you're having any technical issues with your Zoom features, you can use the chat function to contact the technical team. And a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the BLM Arizona YouTube channel. The panel will be available in the Zoom webinar to answer questions until 7 p.m. tonight. We will do our best to answer as many of those questions as we can. I'd like to turn things over to Irina Ford, who's the Hassayampa Field Office Manager, for introductions.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, everyone. As Chris already stated, let's start off with a round of introductions of our staff that will be assisting in developing the Table Mesa EA. Starting with Leon Thomas, who is our District Manager for the Phoenix District Office. Myself, Irina Ford, I'm the Field Manager for the Hassayampa Field Office. Chelsea McKinney, the BLM Project Manager for the Table Mesa EA. James Holden, the Assistant Field Manager and Aquafria and National Monument Manager. Dale Onmeis, the Planning and Environmental Coordinator for the Phoenix District Office. Chris Wonderly, our Public Affairs Specialist for the Phoenix District Office. Chris Gamage, the Outdoor Recreation Planner for the Hassayampa Field Office. Christopher McLaughlin, the Archaeologist for the Hassayampa Field Office. Tim Demko, the Geologist for the Hassayampa Field Office. Dana Robinson, the GIS Specialist for the Phoenix District Office. Emilio Corella, Natural Resource Specialist for the Hassayampa Field Office. Damon Hahn, the Wildlife Biologist for the Hassayampa Field Office. Heben Lin, the socioeconomic specialist for the Division of Lands and Resources for Arizona and New Mexico, and James Anderson, the Lands and Realty Specialist for the Hassayampa Field Office. Next slide, please. Welcome again. We'd like to start off really just better defining who we are and how it relates to the state of Arizona. So specific to the Bureau of Land Management in the state of Arizona, our federal lands encompass 12.2 million surface acres of public lands and 7.5 million subsurface acres within the state, for an overall $649.9 million in economic output. In the Phoenix district, includes 3.1 million acres of public land and includes the subsurface mineral estate throughout 8 counties, that being Pima, Pinal, Maricopa, Gila, Yavapai, Coconino, Navajo, and Apache counties. Next slide, please.
All right. Hello. Again, my name is Chelsea McKinney, and I am the project manager for the BLM Phoenix District. The map currently being shown on the screen is of the Table Mesa Recreation Area, outlined in the bold black line, as approved in the 2010 Recreation Area and Travel Management Plan. The Table Mesa Recreation Area is 11,500 acres and is located off of I-17, exit 236, or Table Mesa Road, and is about 38 miles north of Phoenix. The planning area is in the Table Mesa Recreation Management Zone, or RMZ, and is part of the Black Canyon Management Unit and Black Canyon Special Recreation Management Area, and SRMA, as defined in the Bradshaw-Harquahala Resource Management Plan. SRMAs are areas that experience intense use that require a special management or have increased recreation use and demand. SRMAs are managed to retain recreation opportunities while protecting resources and reducing user conflicts. Other items of note in the planning area is that the Black Canyon Hiking and Equestrian Trail are also present. This is the area the Hassayampa Field Office is considering for this proposed plan update and potential recreation area extension. Next slide, please. The 2010 Table Mesa Recreation Area analyzed 2 alternatives: the no action and the proposed action, or the plan. The proposed action was selected, and a decision record and FONSI, or finding of no significant impact, solidified the plan in June of 2010. The plan authorized routes and roads, provided for rock crawling, facilities, recreational target shooting, natural areas, access to private and state land, as well as other items. Next slide. The 2010 Table Mesa Recreation Area Management Plan and Travel Management Plan designated an 85-mile travel network of roads and trails, identified buffer zones for recreational target shooting away from roads and recreation areas. It also identified recreation areas for staging, camping, trails for motorized and mountain bike use, and others. The goal was to plan for future growth in the Phoenix area. The Hassayampa Field Office is seeking input from the public to update the plan and continue to plan for the growth that the Phoenix area is experiencing. The BLM is hoping the public will provide input as it begins this process for whether the Recreation Area Management Plan needs to be updated and include recreation opportunities that are currently missing. Next slide. The map being displayed is of the Table Mesa Recreation Area that the HFO staff is considering in this project. The outlined area in black, with the additional acreage the BLM would like to add, identified in the pink. This area is at the top northwest section of the map. The additional recreation area, if authorized through the EA, would add an additional 3,500 acres to the recreation area and be placed in the Federal Register notice once the BLM cadastral team reviews and confirms the coordinates. In adding the additional acreage to the recreation area, this would allow the Hassayampa Field Office to potentially zone different recreational uses in areas where staff and the public are currently seeing uses and safety concerns. An additional recreational target shooting area would be identified and cleared for construction in the CEA. The HFO currently has two recreational target shooting sites that have been open to the public since October 2022. The field office is hoping to add an additional site to the Table Mesa area due to the current high use the area is receiving of dispersed recreational shooting and safety concerns from the staff and the public. Though the 2010 plan identified areas and buffers where shooting would not be allowed, previous policy prevented implementation. Over time, the increased use of this area being utilized for recreational target shooting needs to be addressed and updated to meet current and future needs in the area. Though we are leaning on the previous work of the 2010 plan, the HFO staff would like to make it clear that we will not be reopening any travel management planning in this area for public comment or updates. Next slide, please. As I identified on the previous slide, the 2010 EA and FONSI focused on recreational management, and in the previous plan, particular recreational types were called out. The BLM is looking to see if the plan is still accurate in the types of recreation uses in the new, or if new items need to be identified. We are asking the public to look at the plan again and determine with the growth of the Phoenix metro area, if the items identified on the screen still need to be considered, or if new items need to be added for consideration. Next slide. Now that you're aware of the project the BLM will be analyzing, we'd like to review with you the timeline, explain where we currently are, and move into how you can help us move the project forward. National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, is a process that all government agencies use when analyzing public land decisions and require that we work with the public to make a range of suitable alternatives to analyze in that process. The left column, titled Process Milestones, provides you the key steps the BLM will be working towards as we aim to have a final decision record in the late spring of 2023. The right column is demonstrating key public input phases that we hope you will contribute to. As you can see with the arrow that says we are here, we are currently at public scoping. The public scoping process officially started with the press release of the Notice of Intent, or NOI, which began the public scoping period on January 4th, 2023. The objective of the scoping process is to involve the public in identifying issues and formulating alternatives that must be considered by the BLM. The public scoping period will end February 3rd, 2023. Next slide, please. We really appreciate hearing your thoughts. Your participation is an important part of the decision-making process. The BLM is seeking issues and concerns related to recreation use in the Table Mesa area. We need your help to identify issues to address in our analysis. The most effective comments are those that provide detailed information to the agencies. Here are some suggestions to make your comments useful in the NEPA process. Comments should focus on the proposed project and what is being analyzed, such as identifying potentially affected resources and resource concerns that should be analyzed, and data sources or other projects that agencies might not be aware of. The more clear, concise, and relevant to the project your comments are, the more effective and useful they will be. We'll describe in the next slide some tips for providing comments and information. Next slide, please. When providing input during the scoping period, please remember to provide constructive solutions with documentation or resource to support your recommendations. Include any knowledge, experience, or evidence as it relates to your observations and comments. Provide GPS readings, if possible, when referring to specific locations. Avoid vague statements or concerns. These don't give the BLM something on which we can act. Multiple comments or topics with the same concern are considered one comment. Comments are not votes for or against a decision. BLM must rely on supporting information, not the number of comments received. Avoid using form letters to convey your opinion. Your unique way of writing a comment helps the BLM understand your point of view. Opinions do not add to the analysis. Rather than stating, I don't like this, or this sounds great, it's more useful if you discuss specific details you have concerns about. Comments via telephone call will not be considered. We need comments in writing. Make sure you submit your comments within the time frame announced. Next slide. This slide is providing an example of a substantial comment and one example of an unsubstantial comment. The comments with the green check marks on the left side of the screen that read, you should build a campground at this location with GPS locations provided. And the second green check mark, you should limit recreational target shooting to these locations with GPS locations, provides input from the user's perspective, as well as locations for the BLM to research further in this EA process. The comment on the right with the red X that states, I agree/disagree with this plan is an opinion and does not help the BLM with the project. Next slide. The public scoping period closes on February 3rd, 2023. The BLM will consider information received during scoping to help develop alternatives for the environmental assessment. Official comments, including names and addresses of respondents, will be available for public review. If you wish to withhold your name or address from public review or from disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act or FOIA, you must state so prominently at the beginning of your written comments. Such requests will be honored to the extent allowed by law. You can submit official comments, requests for additional information, or to be added to the mailing list via email at BLM_AZ_HFO_Table Mesa EA@blm.gov. You can also submit comments to the e-planning website at https://e-planning.gov/project/20222871/510. And last but not least, you can submit comments and questions via mail to the Hassayampa Field Office, attention Table Mesa Scoping, 2020 East Bell Road, Phoenix, Arizona, 85022. Thank you all for your time, and I will turn the presentation back over to Chris.
Thanks, Chelsea. So we'll now move into our question and answer session. To submit a question, you can click the chat button at the bottom of your screen, type your question in the field and press enter, and then wait for a specialist to answer your question. We may respond to your questions live or in writing. Please submit your question only once. It may take a few minutes for specialists to process the question and provide the answer. Again, you can use the chat icon at the bottom of the screen to submit questions.
So Chris, I think at this time I can maybe answer Mr. Sorota's question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. So that the adding 3,500 acres and the shooting range is only part of this update. We are looking for suggestions from the public on how it's currently being utilized. So we don't want to just paint ourselves into a corner or anything like that. We want to make sure we're able to grow with the expansion of Phoenix and those future uses. So please submit, to us any suggestions that you might have that we can analyze in this EA for more recreation in the area. So in short, yes, we are looking to do more items, but we want to get input from the public.
Good evening again. I'd like to speak to Gabe Arn, I believe it is, question. And the question reads, is there already a list of concerns from the public? At this time, we don't have a formal list, but we do have some insight and feedback that we've received in the past about this particular project. The scoping period will allow us to once again receive feedback from the general public, as well as to formalize it and include it in our developmental process.
Okay. The next question I would like to respond to is Mr. Robert. I'm going to murder your last name, so I so apologize, but is it Lamore? And apologies again. We have an internal KMZ and shapefile for the proposed expansion. If you would like to request that, please put your email in the chat if you're okay with that, and we can try and get you the shapefile sooner rather than later. But currently we don't have the full shapefile ready for the public because we're hoping to get more information from the public about what they'd like to see. But please send your email and we can get that to you.
All right, I'll go up again. Let's see. I believe it is Susan Spiegelmeyer, I believe. I apologize if I mispronounced that. And the question reads, is there anything in the plans that would shut down off-road trails? At this time, again, this is a very conceptual period where we're trying to figure out through a collaborative fashion what we think makes the most sense on the landscape. And that's why the scoping period is so important. So the short answer is not, to my knowledge, no, but your feedback is very important. And again, it will assist us in our decision making.
Okay, and to add on to that, to respond to Woody, just like Irina was saying, at this current time, we are not planning on reinitiating any travel management plan items. So as of right now, no, but again, information that comes in from scoping could be changed later when we get to draft version. But as of right now, that is not the intent of this recreation area plan.
I'm up again. All right, I will tackle Nina Barlow's question, and it reads, there is an area that is a popular target shooting area, but conflicts with a known/marked forward trail. Let's see, while I would propose to limit target shooting in that spot, would an alternative road reroute fall under alternatives? That's an interesting question. I want to make sure that I fully interpreted it. As you know, within the NEPA process, we have a range of alternatives, if you will, that usually range from anywhere from A to D or A to E. Alternative A is usually the do nothing approach. We will have an approach that basically speaks to recreational opportunities, but there will be nothing that rivals travel management. So I would have to actually analyze that question a little bit more. I do apologize, but at this time, again, we're not focusing upon any road-based opportunities or actions in this particular environmental assessment.
Okay, it looks like there's some back and forth conversation going on about some roads. So I'm going to skip down to Nina Barlow. And the question is, would additional law enforcement presence, including MCSO, NG and F, etc., be within the scope of this new plan, or at least protection officers, or just presence? I would say yes, because in the 2010 plan, they do call out law enforcement. So again, we are tiering back to that 2010 recreation management plan. But if you have recommendations of what you would like to see, again, please provide those comments and let us know.
Hi again, and I think Nina, you provided another question, and it's specific to the one. Whoops, it's so specific to the one that you asked a little earlier. Your question is, you're asking if a road reroute is a possible option to avoid shooter conflict. Essentially, we will be evaluating, reviewing all recreational opportunities as well as any existing activities at this current time, and with the intent of avoiding any level of conflict. I apologize if you can hear my kids in the background. That being said, we will take that into consideration, most certainly as it relates to safety, and that is of the utmost importance when we are working towards an integrated approach of how we manage on the public lands.
Okay. We're going to jump to Mr. Sorota's question, and it says, what types of resources are available to rec plan? Are there funds for on-site improvements like fencing, environmental toilets, kiosks, ... Is there funding for more law enforcement officers providing a greater ability to enforce current rules and laws? So Mr. Sorota, I want to say that there is available funding, but sometimes, especially us as government agencies, don't fully qualify for those funding sources. So we look for partnerships and organizations that would like to work with the BLM to seek those funds and assist us with projects. The big key factor in a lot of funding for such activities that you're asking questions about does require NEPA, or shovel ready NEPA done. So again, by updating this NEPA and identifying what we'd like to see, it will help us get one step closer to additional funding sources. Okay, and then I do see that there was an additional part of that question where it says currently there's a large presence of boondockers or long-term campers. Is there an ability to enforce the 14-day stay rule? There is an ability to enforce it, but there's also a lot of questions that go into responding to long-term campers. So I wish we could just say 14 days and you're up, but there's more that goes into that than that. And I don't know if our law enforcement officer would like to unmute and maybe talk a little bit about that. But, if you would like to see less long-term campers, your suggestion could be to maybe have a shorter camping limit in the Table Mesa area. So just offering another idea, if you will. So the signs that you saw, Nina, regarding the 2010 plan, sorry, let me rephrase. Nina, I'm addressing your comment after the 2010 plan was implemented. There were numerous no shooting signs that are now long gone. Is it possible to get a map of where they are supposed to be? The short answer is no, because as I stated in the presentation, the previous line of the government was that we would not tell people where they could or could not shoot. So I want to say the 2010 plan took a giant leap in trying to manage that type of activity. But then again, implementation wasn't fully seen, and those rules were not posted in a Federal Register notice for implementation. So we can't actually put those signs out and have them be enforceable. So.
Hi, I just wanted to piggyback off of what Chelsea just said. It's specific to Nino's last question. I would like to fully recommend that if you have any type of historical knowledge about where they used to be, or if you have any feedback that would help us to better understand where there may be some conflict, it would be extremely useful to submit it in the form of a comment so we can refer to it and review what's taking place on the lands.
So kind of going back, Nina, to I remember Tom saying at the time that we could tell people where they can't shoot, but we couldn't endorse where they can shoot. Liability. Would the intent of a designated shooting area negate the more open shooting that currently exists? I believe that in us developing a recreational shooting site, it would kind of funnel more folks to that recreational target shooting area rather than just going anywhere. Again, that's the hope of creating these sites, but is it foolproof? No. And again, we don't want to take away anyone else's areas. We just want to make it safe for multiple recreational use. So sorry, I don't have a more solid answer for you at this time, but if you know, that's always the hope of these sites. And again, folks, going back to the comments, if you would like to participate, and we hope you participate in providing scoping comments for us, is if you're out recreating in the area, whether you're an OHV user, a rock crawling user, someone who likes to disperse recreational target shoot, and you know that certain recreational uses are happening in a certain area, again, please GPS those and attach them with your comments. Again, those make it easier for us to go back and see exactly what you're talking about and helps with the analysis of this environmental assessment. So thank you.
Good evening again. I see two comments, one from Gabe, another one from David Sirota, and they're along the lines of cleanup efforts. Cleanup efforts exist, every day. We are extremely supportive of gathering up a group of people to assist us with some of the needs on the land. So outside of the NEPA process, and definitely outside of this particular environmental assessment, those opportunities do exist. So if you have any recommendations, any concerns, considering this this specific issue, please feel free to reach out to our office at any time, because we would really greatly appreciate any assistance and support that you could provide, as well as your overall recommendation.
Okay. I am taking the next one, which I believe is from Simone. How are you defining user conflict? So this, in my experience, can be interpreted a little different. Field office to field office can be a little different, but I would say my interpretation is twofold. It can be, say, motorized users using a non-motorized trail, and for some reason they continue to use it, and it causes, I would say, not fights, but probably some strong opinions on both sides, and that can be user conflict. The other user conflicts that I would classify that we probably hear the most about in this area at this time is just one use not being compatible with another or causing a safety issue. So again, not trying to pick on anybody by any means, but we do notice that we get calls about the dispersed recreational target shooting going, or folks maybe unintentionally aiming at the trail or across a roadway, or someone coming over the hill and almost getting hit. So I want to say those are my two definitions of conflict, but again, it can vary from field office, field manager to field manager. And Gabe, I thank you for your enthusiasm and saying that you rally the troops. Another item that I just want to bring to everyone's attention, and I'm still not fully versed in it, so please excuse me for not being prepared for that question, is there is, I believe, an IM that talks about having volunteers pick up trash that's due to target shooting because of the lead levels. So if it's the big, TVs that someone might bring out, or, those big targets, I think that might be okay. But like the smaller items, or, what I believe people call trigger trash, that gets a little messier. And there's more rules or more methods that we need to go through to have volunteers. So again, super excited that you want to rally the troops, but there is some steps we would need to take to have that happen. So just want to say that. But again, thank you.
I will jump in again here briefly while we're waiting for more questions. Again, a reminder, you can submit your questions using the chat feature at the bottom of the screen, and type in your question there and hit enter, and that will submit it to our specialist to get an answer for you. It may take a few minutes to respond.
Hi again. Hi, Gabe. Your comment reads, we and many other are passionate about the area and want to see it remain open for many generations for all recreation. Are there any environmental concerns at the moment that put this area in danger of being shut down? And my answer to that is no. We're not working towards shutting down this particular area. We just want to go through the standard process, which is NEPA, making sure that we're up to date with any past, future, or foreseeable events, and doing our due diligence by all of the resource areas that exist or may potentially exist in the future. That being said, at this time, I can speak for myself. My only intent is to enhance the area and to incorporate your feedback into making it better and more enjoyable.
So as we wrap things up for our meeting tonight, I'd like to remind everyone about the process to submit official comments. You can submit comments, requests for additional information, or to be added to a mailing list via email at blm_az_table_mesa_ea@blm.gov. You can also submit comments on our e-planning website, https://eplanning.blm.gov/e-planning-project/2022-871/510. Or you can mail comments to the Hassayampa Field Office. Attention, Table Mesa Scoping, 2020 East Bell Road, Phoenix, Arizona, 85022. Comments must be received by February 3rd, 2023. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight and have a good evening.